This conference will now be recorded.
Aqui.
Hello, good afternoon. I think we will start the recording of the session. And I thank everybody who is here for this rules proposal session. This rules proposal session online is replacing any session which we would have normally uh, in the during the annual meeting or the Congress. So this is the place where we want to discuss the proposals which are upcoming, also to give the technical committees a little bit more time to have a look at that and look at the comments which are coming in. We have still a few people coming in. This session will be recorded, as I said. It will be made available on the ISTA YouTube channel in a few days. So if people cannot join, they will be able to have a look again at the um, document, at the whole webinar, and will be able to um, give comments by writing and as early as possible. So we have a new thing. Actually, we have two new things. We have Jody here as the new chair of the Rules Committee, who is giving you the rules proposals. Jody made um, a change to the format of the rules proposals as well. They are in landscape now and not in portrait. And I think that was a very good idea because you have more information which you can compare at one look in that case. That was really good. Jody, I will hand over to you. Everybody is able to ask questions or make comments directly after each rules proposal. If you lift your hand, or I think it's better if you switch on your camera in this area, then I will be able to ask you in for some comments. Thank you very much. Jody, the floor is yours. You can share your screen.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this year's Open Rules Committee meeting. So per the requirements by ISTA, these were posted at least 2 months before the OGM. So we wanted to give everyone ample time to consider the proposals. In addition, this online forum allows open discussion and feedback regarding the proposals. So the Secretariat notified the members and the stakeholders of the date of this meeting and asked that the feedback be provided by Friday, March 28th, so that we would have enough time to reach out to the TCOM chairs and incorporate those comments into the document. Which I've done. So I'll display those comments after each proposal on the screen. If you do not see your comment that you submitted, please let us know so that we can be sure to prioritize that today. So we'll make sure to cover every comment that has been submitted already. And then if time allows, then we can take additional questions and comments. TCOM chairs, hopefully you are available and ready to turn on your microphone to respond to the comments as needed if you have not done so already. So the other thing is that new topics during the OGM will not be heard unless they're critical to the integrity of the rules. So give me just a second to share my screen and we will go through. Okay, can you see this document? Hopefully. Okay, so first we'll go through the editorial changes. The first one was just to correct the spelling of aging in 1.5.2.17.2.
Jody, may I have one comment here? If everybody could mute, I could do it as well if you're not doing it. And if you want to see things a little bit larger with this GoToMeeting, you have the possibility to enlarge the screen. Jody is showing yourself as well. Thank you very much.
Okay. The second editorial change was to remove the letter A and replace it with an alternative. That should actually be blue. So these were just simple grammatical or color or spelling changes. The third one is in figure 6.3A and 6.3B to add the words with seminal roots. This did have a comment from the membership, and that is just that it's not necessary to add those words with seminal roots. Is there anyone from the Tetrazoleum Committee that would like to comment on this?
Just now, Jody?
Yes, perfect.
Hello, everyone. I, I can say that it is not necessary, but it's not wrong. I can say we consult each member in the Tetrazoleum Committee. The proposal is coming from the Tetrazoleum Committee that voted the majority this to add this on the proposal of someone that is working with the serials Tetrazoleum test daily. And I was thinking that was not necessary, but important to add this comment to the figure. Full stop. Nothing more.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the next one is 9.2.5.2 was a correction to change greater than 8 centimeters in diameter to greater than or equal to 8 centimeters diameter. This was a typing error. The next change was for 15.3. First, the glycine max was left off inadvertently in the last version of the rules. And then while we were correcting that, we put it into alphabetical order because ZMAs was actually at the beginning and it should have been at the end of that list. The next one, 15.8.1.7, is just changing the wording a little bit to remove the word mean and that and change it to if the conductivity of the 4 replicates differs by more than the tolerance value for their average conductivity, the lot must be retested. There was a membership comment on this that the word average is a new change and should be blue colored, and I fixed that. So thank you for catching that. Okay, and then the last editorial change was to add accuracy to the seed weight. So it was previously just listed as 52 grams or higher than 55 grams, and they added plus or minus 0.5 grams on both ends. So 52 plus or minus 0.5 grams or higher than 55 plus or minus 0.5 grams. And there were no additional comments to the editorial section. Okay.
Are there any
Part B.
comments for the editorial section from outside, from the audience? Ignacio's raising his hand.
Yes, Andreas, thank you. Jody, can we return for the first editorial change related with vigor?
Is it this one?
No, sorry. The down the next page, please. The previous one.
Okay.
Yes. Down proposed version. I am talking about I am talking about 15.8.1.7.
Okay.
I think if taking in consideration the proposed change, if after the bracket must to be changed for by off.
So if the conductivity of the 4 replicates differs by more than the tolerance value of their average conductivity, the lot must be retested. Is that what you mean? So
Maybe
instead of for
the
of?
of this is my comment related with this. I don't know the bigger committee members, but their opinion. Thank you.
Allison, are you on today? Could you comment on that?
It doesn't make a big difference, but it doesn't make a big difference, but if I was speaking English, I would use for, not of.
Okay. Yeah, either sounds okay to me. I think, yeah, either sounds okay to me. So, but we will make that note, and if needed, change it. But I think for is probably
Okay.
okay.
You're
Okay.
happy with that, Ignacio?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anyone else? If you want to have the microphone, please raise your hand. That's the easiest way for us to recognize. Thank you for that, by the way, Ignacio.
Okay. If no additional comments, Part B, we have a new species to add, Diplotaxis tenuifolia. This is wild rocket and is already in the AOSA rules. For trade ISTA certificates are necessary. There was a validation study done for the germination test. And for the working weight, the calculator for adding new species was used, and the calculator results were checked by the statistics committee. And there were no comments from the membership received before this meeting.
We have a raised hand. Melanie, please.
Hi, Jody. So the Diplotaxis is on the ISTA stabilized list, but the synonym that you listed, the Cimbrium, is not. Should I add that? No one sent anything around to the NUM committee saying that this name was going to be added to the rules and requesting that the synonym be added, which is why we don't have it. But yeah, the list has not been approved yet, so we can add that synonym if we need to.
Okay. So someone correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like if we're able to, at this point, add that synonym, since it hasn't been approved yet, and we won't be able to do it again for 3 years, right? So it
6
seems
years.
like we should add that. 6 years. Okay, so yeah.
Well, our practice in the past has been if names are added to the rules, we add them to the ISTA stabilized list if they're not already present, and we publish an updated version of the list without waiting for the 6-year interval.
Okay.
But yes, if we can add the synonym at this point, that would be very good.
That would be highly appreciated, I think, Melanie, and we can also mention that during that presentation of yours. I think it's next week, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Any additional comments about this new species? If not, I will move on. So this first one, C.1.1, is a revision of the sublot allowance for Solanum lycopersicum and other fleshy vegetable species. It's to add new species to the 20 sublot option, and a maximum seedlot size for 20 sublots is restricted to 1,000 kilograms. So the following proposal builds on the previous proposal developed by the Ecom Vegetable Seed Industry Working Group on the maximum number of sublots allowed. This proposal was developed in consultation with the Bulking and Sampling Committee and Purity TCOMs and is supported by new experimental data from testing of seedlots and species with a summary report and analysis supplied by the Statistics TCOM. The report of the Statistics TCOM, and you can see that in the validation report, uses new statistical theory to extrapolate from the previous experiment on small seedlots of Solanum lycopersicum and uses new data for Cucumis sativus and Citrullus lanatus seedlots to allow the expansion of the permission for 20 sublots to those species. The proposal also suggests using a species group approach to avoid the requirement to test every species for homogeneity of seed lots within a grouping of species. The first group of species suggested is that of fleshy fruits and are processed using methods that avoid contamination with seeds of other species. This information is used as prior knowledge to add to the statistical analysis. The analysis and data analysis are used to review the maximum seed lot size for this grouping of species when the option to issue up to 20 sublots are used. The species in the fleshy fruit group are capsicum species, Citrullus lanatus, Cucumis mellow, Cucumis sativus, and Solanum lycopersicum. The seed lots tested included both hybrid and open pollinated varieties. So last year, no, I guess it was in 2023, the membership voted to allow 20 sublots for Solanum lycopersicum. And after some discussion and a majority vote at the OGM, it was also agreed to decrease the maximum seed lot size from 10,000 kilos to 200 kilos for Solanum lycopersicum and the linked Solanum lycopersicon group of species. The reason for doing this was to be cautious with the permission to create 20 sublots and restrict this allowance to smaller seed lots that are usually produced commercially. Following the change, discussions were held about the maximum size of seed lots produced from open pollinated tomato seed production fields where seed lots can routinely exceed 200 kilograms. A different approach has now been developed based on the new data and summary to reset the maximum seed lot size for the Solanum group from 200 kilos to 10,000 kilos, and to amend the sublot allowance for when up to 20 sublots can be used for the named species. So this new approach also allows for future species to be added to the allowance for up to 20 sublots without affecting the existing seed lot maximums in Table 2C. A statistical model provided details of the link between homogeneity and maximum seed lot size and has been used to remain cautious in the approach for maximum seed lot sizes when up to 20 sublots are used, and to limit these seed lots to a maximum of 1,000 kilograms. This 1,000 kilogram limit was confirmed to meet with the needs of the vegetable seed industry. To align this proposal with the maximum seed lot sizes for Solanum lycopersicum and the Solanum lycopersicum group of species, their maximum seed lot size needs to be reset to 10,000 kilos, and that is in proposal C2.1. So in 1.3, you can see the change there. So the new species were added in the case of capsicum species, Citrullus lanatus, Cucumis mellow, Cucumis sativus, and Solanum lycopersicum. A maximum of 20 sublots are allowed, provided that the maximum original seed lot size does not exceed 1,000 kilos, and each sublot has a weight of at least 5% of the weight of the original seed lot. And then in 2.2.2, the sublot section, a sublot may not be less than 20% of the seed lot, where up to 5 sublot certificates are used, and 5% of those species for which up to 20 sublots are used. See 1.3i. There was a membership comment on this. Section 1.3 is 1,000 kilos the maximum seed lot size for a sublot, or the size of the original seed lot, which should not be exceeding 10,000 kilos. And the bulking and sampling committee response to this was, for the question on C.1.1, the sentence is clear for me. The requirement is a maximum 1,000 kilos is for the original seed lot. And then it restates that sentence. And I'm going to go ahead and move right into C.2.1 because it's all related, and then we can open it up for questions if needed. So you can see here the maximum weight of the lot for the Solanum group was changed from 200 kilos to back to 10,000 kilos, and there were no membership comments on that section. So are there any other comments or questions on these two changes?
I don't see any raised hands. There's one. Lena, please. I think that's for the bulking and sampling committee. Lena? I think you have to unmute yourself, Lena. Lena, we cannot hear you. Okay, Lena, if you cannot, please try to come up again. We have Natalie Kralikova here. Natalie, you have your hand up as well.
Yes, thank you. My comment is not connected to tomato seed, but to Chapter 2 of ISTA Rules. We have come up with a question already by email that the species Euglans is missing in the table 2C. So I would like to raise up this issue if you could consider to add species Euglans into the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. I didn't quite catch which species that was. Would you mind putting it in the chat so that I can copy and paste it? Thank you so much.
Sinon, on met le son. I'm Corinne Guimy. I'm the chair of the Bulking and Sampling Committee. We can add a new species, but we have to have more information. So please send more information on email and why you think that the species is missing.
If I can add more information, the issue is that Euglans is in all the chapters of ISTA Rules. It's everywhere, but the only thing is that it's only missing in this table. So it might be a mistake, maybe.
Can you send me an email and I will check what I can do?
Sure.
Thank you.
Just for your information, you can find the email on the ISTA website in the Bulking and Sampling Committee. Sylvie? No, I think Corinne was with Sylvie together, right?
Yes,
Yes.
we are together in the same room. We are many. I'm not alone.
No, change your name in that case to Jevez.
Yes, sorry, I didn't have
Oh,
time.
no, it's okay.
Okay, so if there are no other comments on that, I will move on to the next one.
Yeah, Lena, do you have any comment? You are now not muted. No. Okay, then let's continue. Thank you.
Okay. The next change is in the germination test C.5.1. It's revised wording to clarify that the first count may be postponed or omitted. So the wording was updated in 5.6.4, duration of the test to be clear that the first count can be postponed or omitted. Paragraph has been split to make it easier to read. So this one originates from the ISTA Accreditation Department and is supported by the Germination Committee. And it harmonizes with the AOSA rules. So it's changing the sentence, the times indicated in table 5A refer to the highest temperatures if a lower temperature is chosen, and then it is changed to if the seedlings have not reached a stage of development which allows for accurate evaluation, the first count may have to be postponed or may be omitted. And then there's also a change to 5.10 along the same lines. The first time for the first count is approximate. If the seedlings have not reached a stage of development which allows for accurate evaluation, the first count may have to be postponed or may be omitted. And then for tests in sand, organic growing media, or soil lasting not more than 14 days, the first count may be omitted. And there were no membership comments on this. Are there any from the floor?
I don't see a raised hand here.
Okay. So moving on to C.5.2, potassium nitrate is used in the germination test as a procedure for breaking physiological dormancy. The ISTA rules specify that 0.2% KNO3 can be used. Laboratories have had success breaking dormancy at lower concentrations of potassium nitrate and have observed less root damage within seedlings when lower concentrations have been used. So this is anecdotal evidence. The proposal would allow solutions of up to 0.2% KNO3 to be used. Laboratories would continue to state the percentage of KNO3 on the ISTA certificates. A method validation study has not been completed for this proposal, as KNO3, a 0% concentration is already allowed, and dormancy breaking is not a requirement. Laboratories are required to determine the viability of fresh seed greater than or equal to 5%. This proposal originates from a question from the ISTA Accreditation Department and is supported by the Germination Committee. This proposal currently does not harmonize with the AOSA rules. So it's just to add that you can do up to 0.2% instead of exactly 0.2%. So there were some membership comments. So the comment was the proposal may open room for non-uniformity of results. It is suggested to add conditions for using different concentration. The response from the germination TCOM is that KNO3 is a method recommended for breaking physiological dormancy. If levels of less than or equal to 0.2% KNO3 were not breaking dormancy, there would be higher levels of fresh seed present at the end of the test, or replicates would be out of tolerance. Currently, there are rules in place to deal with both situations. For example, 5.6.5.3 ungerminated seeds, fresh seeds, determined by dissection, tetrazolium, or excised embryo, and 5.7c, retesting when the range for the replicates exceeds the maximum tolerated range in Table 5b. Retest must be carried out using the same or different test method or an alternative method. Currently in the ISTA rules, GA3 already allows different levels of concentration of up to 0.1%. And with these rules already in place, the expectation would be to have uniformity in seed testing. So are there additional comments or questions? Or also if the Germination Committee has anything to add, but I think this has been discussed pretty extensively and they sent their response back, and that's what's included.
I don't see any raised hands on that topic, Jody.
Okay, well, I will move on to the next one. Chapter 6, the tetrazolium test, is to change the minimum number of seeds required for tetrazolium. Many species have very large seeds, making it very difficult to conduct a tetrazolium test on 400 seeds. Additionally, it is sometimes challenging to obtain 400 seeds for certain species. Therefore, it is necessary to be able to perform the tetrazolium test on fewer seeds, such as 4 reps of 50 seeds, 2 reps of 100 seeds, 4 reps of 25 seeds, or 2 reps of 50 seeds. These new testing schemes require new tolerance tables in addition to tables 6b, 6c, and 6d. The inclusion of these new tables is the purpose of this proposed change to the rules in Chapter 6. The Calculations tab of the Excel workbook provides detailed calculations, and that is available on the website. So that, that document title is a link that you can go to if you would like to see the Excel sheet on that. The tolerance tables were developed by the chair and the vice chair of the statistics TCOM. And this proposal currently does not harmonize with the AOSA rules. I'll add that the AOSA rules have never required 400 seeds, so the fact that it doesn't harmonize does not mean that we would be doing less. The AOSA rules call for 200 seeds. So, okay, so you can see in 6.5.1, the addition of the sentence, however, in certain circumstances, it may be necessary to test fewer than 400 seeds. In such cases, 200 seeds must be tested in replicates of 50 or 100, or 100 seeds in replicates of 25 or 50. The pure seed fraction must be mixed thoroughly. I added a comma there. It's kind of hard to see, but that was just a grammatical change. And then in 6.7, to add that the number of seeds tested, if fewer than 400 seeds, must be reported. And then the method used including any testing procedure that deviates from that prescribed in Table 6A must also be reported. That was just a little bit of a wording change. And in that 6.7 section, also to change at the discretion of the seed testing laboratory, further information may be reported, for example, percentage of seeds that were empty with larvae broken or decayed, just changing that wording a little bit to say the percentage of fruit or seeds that are empty that contain insects or larvae or that are broken and decayed. So consequential changes to Chapter 1 for this would be to add that the number of seeds tested if fewer than 400 must be reported, and then just changing the wording a little bit on the method used. And then the tolerance tables are all here. So depending on how many seeds are in your replicate, you would find whichever. So rather than just one table 6B, there's part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, and then in table 6C, part 1, part 2, part 3, 6D, part 1, part 2, part 3. So there was a membership comment. The wording using certain circumstances using 200 seeds will open for interpretation. It is suggested to define the conditions that can be used that can use the reduced number of seeds for a TZ test, for example, a small seed lot, as seen in 2.2.14. Sergio, would you mind commenting on this one?
Sergio?
Thank you. Yes. I want to add something about Juglans. We have the one lady asking about the Juglans. If you try to test with tetrazolium test, Juglans regia maybe 400 seeds, you can be able to do it. But if you have to test Juglans nigra, I can assure you, you don't arrive at the end of the test because your ants are ill at the end of the test. This is one of the certain circumstances. Maybe we can put it as or EG C 2.2.14, but it's not the only case. Could be the case for the wild species, for example, because if you have a few number of seeds, you cannot waste 400 seeds for testing for the viability. But normally, a laboratory that daily works with tetrazolium keep agreement with the clients, and the clients is satisfied or for replicates of 25 or 50 seeds. And what was done by statistic committee was a big gift after decades to make us this gift of the new tolerance tables, because in the past we were used to go to the chapter 5 germination tables to make a comparison of the results. Now from this year we will have the new table for chapter 6 tetrazolium. I hope to be clear. I'm here for other questions or comments.
Do we have any other questions for that? Also to Sergio? I see no raised hands on that. Nope.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next one is also tetrazolium, C.6.2. The following proposal has been developed by the ISTA Tetrazolium Committee with the scope of aligning the rounding results of the viability test with the germination test. Seed categories, priority in rounding the result in a viability test are different from seed categories of a germination test. In particular, the order to be followed in rounding procedure of a viability test is viable seeds, non-viable seeds, hard seeds, dead seeds, empty seeds. So this would add a paragraph 6.6.1, rounding results. Round the percentage of viable seeds down to the next whole number if the fraction is less than 0.5, and round up to the next whole number if the fraction is 0.5 or higher. The sum of the percentages of viable, non-viable, hard, dead, and empty seeds after rounding must be 100. In the case of equal decimal parts, the priority order is viable seeds, non-viable seeds, hard seeds, dead seeds, and empty seeds. There was a membership comment or two. The proposed categories, viable, non-viable, dead, hard, and empty seeds are complicated and outside the purpose of the viability test. The non-viable shall include dead and empty seeds. The categories of viable, non-viable, and hard seeds should be sufficient for the end users. And then the other comment was 6.6.1 rounding results. In total, we expect 100.0 because the fractions are given with 1 decimal place. So Sergio, if you could chime in again, please.
Thank you for showing all this interest in the chapter 6. Give me the possibility to explain better what we decided inside the committee. For sure, for the end user, maybe useful only the definition viable and not viable. But for a tetrazolium lab, it's important distinguishing viable, non-viable, hard seeds, empty seeds, because are different categories. That is different from non-viable. That could be a seed that don't take staining. Non-viable could be a seed that remain pink instead becoming red. It's different categories, non-viable from that. Empty seeds is really important categories for wild species, for example. A lot of empty seeds, the clients can ask you how many empty seeds are in the sample. It's different from that because it's empty, not that. This is the first point. The second one is for sure we expect 100 as in the germination chapter 5, 100. We wrote in the proposal in the case of equal decimal parts, the priority order. We explain also in which order we have to rounding the seeds: viable, non-viable, hard, dead, and empty. The order, the priority in the case of, and then we explain as well if 0.5 more than 0.5 for one category means to the upper number, less than 0.5 to the lower number. And I hope it's clear. I'm here again as well for further comments.
Any other comments? No.
Okay. All right, thank you. We will move on to the next one then.
Thank you.
The next one is the addition of a new seed health testing method. It's a fusarium that I will not try to pronounce. You can see here on the screen. This was developed by the Seed Health Committee and is supported by a method validation study. There was one single comment. Sorry about the scrolling here. So on page 40, it still had the old city listed, Bassersdorf. Is that the correct location or should it be changed? And that's correct. It should have been changed, so I fixed that. Were there any comments on this this new method?
I don't see any raised hands on that one.
Okay. So the next one is Chapter 9, Determination of Moisture Content. So Table 2C is the master table for the whole rules. No species should be included in a different rules table if the species is not listed in Table 2C. There are some inconsistencies. For example, the genre, I can't say that, Agelops and Paspilidium are in Table 9A, but not in Table 2C. Some species are named in Table 2C, but the whole respective genus is listed in Table 9A. In the proposed new Table 9A, only species listed in Table 2C are included. This does not refer to tree and shrub species. There is no corresponding AOSA rule. These inconsistencies were found and mentioned by some ISTA members, so the proposal was developed and approved by the Moisture Committee. So you can see an example. This is just an excerpt of Table 9A. You can see some like Agrostis, for example, the entire genus is listed. And in the new rule proposal, all of the Agrostis species that are in Table 2C are listed. And then the genus only entry for that is crossed out. So you can see the entire table here, but that's the basic gist of that. There was one comment on this that on page 52, the A in Triticum estivum, subspecies estivum, was capitalized. It was an autocorrect, and I fixed that, so that's okay now. Were there any other comments about this?
Yes, Melanie?
I noticed as you were scrolling by that you have the sorghum hybrid formula. If we are going to have the rules be in agreement with the ISTA list, that will need to be replaced. And I've sent a spreadsheet with 90 different corrections needed for the 2025 rules without modification. Some of those are typos, some of those are missing authorities or incorrect authorities, but we will need to decide whether we are trying to coordinate between the stabilized list, the new version, and the rules, which makes sense. Last time it took us multiple years to try to find all the changes, and obviously we missed a few. I did my best to develop an index to all the scientific names of species in the rules, which should assist with this going forward. But that is something that we need to discuss.
Yes, thank you, Melanie, for that. I do have that on my list of things that we need to talk about for sure. And I noticed, if I'm recalling things correctly, is this Vigna subterranea, is that supposed to be spelled differently? I'm not sure. We might need to just double check these two, but you're right. It needs to match what we will be putting into the 2026 rules and not necessarily what's in the 2025 rules. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for checking that.
There are no other comments. We'll move on to C.9.2.
No.
Okay. So the moisture determination of a sample must start as soon as possible after receipt per the rules 9.2.5.1. This phrase is imprecise and difficult to judge. The part after receipt is incorrect. It should be really related to the time of sampling. Further, there should be a relationship between the start and the period the containers fulfill the requirements for being moisture proof as tested by the laboratory. This proposal is not currently in line with the AOSA rules, and the reason for that is that it's just not covered in the AOSA rules very well. This problem was mentioned by an ISTA auditor, and the proposal was developed and approved by the Moisture Committee. So the changes to 9.2.5.1 that previously just said must be started as soon as possible after receipt, and this expands to say the determination must be started as soon as possible after sampling. If issuing an Orange International seed lot certificate, the maximum period allowed between sampling and the start of the determination must be within the period the laboratory or sampling entity has validated that the containers will remain moisture proof. There were no membership comments submitted for that one.
And I don't see any comments in the moment.
Okay. So,
sorry, there's a Chavez raised the hand.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Andreas. Clotilde Polderman speaking. On this proposal, we have some doubts on the fact that there is absolutely no reference of this in the sampling chapter. And we think that as the responsibility will lie on the sampling entity, it should be important that this rule is referred also to in the sampling chapter.
Could we pass that over to the chair, which is sitting next to you, Clotilde?
Yes, we discussed a lot with the moisture committee, and we proposed a sentence in the chapter 2, but it was not accepted by the committee members. The argument was that they didn't want to see conditions on controls in the ISTA rules. So perhaps we can try to do it again later in other conditions with more explanations and so on.
Chair of Moisture.
Yeah, thank you, Andreas. We discussed it also, and I think it could be problematic if we double sentences in different chapters in general. So I would suppose to make a reference or something like this, but not to double the text, because it's always with a follow-up more critical if you have it written in different places in the rules. So we can discuss this in future and more, but in general, I think it is not good to double text at different positions in the rules.
May I get the hand up as well? I raised my hand as well. And what I see here is it's in the rules, yes. Chapter 2, we have to say, is often used only, there are also only sampling entities or samplers who only look at Chapter 2, or sampling entities which only use Chapter 2. And Chapter 2 is also available freely on the ISTA website for people who are doing sampling only and want to look at that. So I can understand the request that it should refer in Chapter 2 as well. And generally, I can understand Axel as well, who says it shouldn't be at too many sites. But I think that the sampling chapter is an exemption here. Please have a look at that, maybe having these comments in the background as well.
Can I raise my hand here too? So we did have some correspondence with Florina about this. So I don't think she was able to join us on this webinar today because she's doing an audit or something, but we did have some correspondence with her about this, and I think that she said they would look into adding this or clarifying this in the accreditation standard, which is also freely available on the website. So a couple things came out of that conversation. One is that samplers do not only use Chapter 2 to perform their work. They also use SOPs or some other guidance from either their if they're an accredited sampling entity, or if they are accredited, or if they're authorized by an accredited lab. They're using other documents, not strictly and only Chapter 2. And then the other part of that conversation was that this was already implied in the accreditation standard, and so it was something coming up in audits that the moisture proofness was required to be tested, but it wasn't really clear in the accreditation standard. So between the moisture chapter and a possible change to the accreditation standard, it could be clear for everyone without also having to change Chapter 2, which that committee was not currently in favor of because there weren't other fit for purpose tests in Chapter 2. It doesn't have anything about divider verification, for example, but that's already covered in the accreditation standard. So, okay.
Any further comments from Clotilde or Corinne or Axel on that?
No, I think all is said.
It's okay.
Ignacio?
Thank you, Andreas. Following this discussion, I think, in my point of view, that in Chapter 2.2.2.6, submitted sample, involve this proposed change because it's established the link between these proposed criteria in Chapter 9. If we read this point at the end, say that submitted sample may be divided into subsample packaged in different material meeting condition for a specific test, example, moisture or health.
Okay. Any further comments on that from the committees? Silence. Okay, then let's continue.
Okay.
Oh,
So the next.
Therese.
Yes, just one last comment, but it returns back to your first comment, Andreas, on the fact that some let's say independent sampling entity will only refer to Chapter 2 because it's free and will not enter into the rest of the rules. So I don't know whether just the fact that it is implied, in some sentences of the Chapter 2 is sufficient. That's all.
Okay. Okay, the next change is in Chapter 15, seed vigor testing, the addition of a new species for the radical emergence test. So the radical emergence test has been shown to identify differences in the field and glasshouse emergence of vegetable brassica species. It is proposed to add vegetable brassica species as a species to which the radical emergence test can be applied. There is no corresponding AOSA rule. This one was submitted by the Vigor Committee and is supported by a validation report. So you can see here the additional line in the table for vegetable brassica species. There were a couple comments. One was in 15.3 to move ZMAs to the end of the named species. My response to that was that it's being handled in the editorial changes section. So in this rule change, on the left-hand side in the current version, it's exactly as it's listed in the 2025 version, but that alphabetical change will be handled separately in the editorial changes section. The second comment was that from a taxonomic perspective, this wording seems imprecise and could lead to ambiguity for the following reasons. By using SPP, the proposed term would also include Brassica napus, which already appears in Table 15b. Number two, I am not aware of any existing classification in the current ISTA rules that clearly defines the group vegetable and species, which would also include Brassica napus, see number one. And number 3, some brassica species have dual usage, both as vegetable crops and as agricultural or industrial crops, thus making the proposed designation vegetable brassica species unclear. Brassica napus can be used for both oil production and as a vegetable, for example, sprouts for salad. There's an overlap in usage. To avoid confusion, it would be helpful either to specify exactly which species are meant by vegetable brassica species, or alternatively, to remove the word vegetable and list the species in question more precisely. This would ensure that users of the rules can readily distinguish between different brassica species and their intended usage. The bigger committee responded to this, and their suggestion is to change it to the following, which covers a range of brassica species and notes the different conditions for Brassica napus. A homogeneous rule for Brassica could be a solution, as it is already the case for the CD test, with specific shorter time for oilseed rape. So this, you can see, would actually change the original. I'll scroll up a little bit. So Brassica napus in black, you can see here, it would be changed to Brassica species, and then list separate specifications for Brassica napus, oilseed rape, and Argentine canola. So we will change this for what is to be shown at the OGM, barring any other changes that come out of this meeting. Are there any comments, or does the bigger committee want to add anything to this?
Any comments? I see no raised hand here.
Okay. And the next one is a change to 15.2, the precision of temperature for the accelerated aging chambers. It has been pointed out that a thermometer with the uncertainty of 0.075 degrees Celsius would be required to correctly check a tolerance of plus or minus 0.3 degrees Celsius, which is a very demanding requirement. The change removes the need for such a thermometer, but would still ensure precise control of temperature during the accelerated aging test of plus or minus 0.5 degrees Celsius. The accelerated aging test in ISTA was based on the AOSA method, and both methods were added to the ISTA rules prior to a method validation study being required. So you can see on the left, it would be removing the sentence precisely calibrate the temperature of the aging chamber, and then changing it to plus or minus 0.5 degrees Celsius instead of plus or minus 0.3 degrees Celsius, and then changing 2 days to at least 48 hours. So just a little bit of a change there. And we received no comments on that. Are there any additional comments?
I don't see any in the moment.
Okay.
No.
This next one is a complete revision of Chapter 16 and a renaming of the chapter. So it's currently named Rules for Size and Grading of Seeds, and it would be changed to Rules for Size and Grading of Beta Seeds and Pelleted Seeds. So the proposed changes mainly concern a deletion of the requirement for an airtight bag for the sample submitted for these analyses in the interest of consistency. In fact, this is not currently required for 1,000 seed weight. Moreover, there is no requirement for airtight bagging of working samples and the duration of contact with ambient air, nor is there a requirement to stabilize working samples prior to analysis. Instead, the proposed version states that sample variation should be avoided as far as possible by storing samples prior to analysis only for short periods. A revision and more detailed description of the procedure, and then also harmonization with the other chapters of the ISTA rules. There is no corresponding AOSA rule. I'll just go through here. There were quite a lot of changes. We received no comments on this at all. But please chime in if you have any questions. Okay.
I don't see any raised hands. Jody?
Okay. And the next one is Chapter 19. This is so the proposed amendments aim to provide better clarity on the conditions under which GMO test results can be referred to either the seed lot or the seed sample, and therefore can be reported on either orange or blue international certificates. There is no corresponding AOSA rule, and it has been discussed and approved by the GMO committee. So in 19.2.15 seed bulks, it adds the sentence, for seed bulks, only ISTA blue certificates may be issued. In 19.7.2, it adds, or in the sample in the case of ISTA blue certificates. Same thing, 19.7.3 and or ISTA blue certificates. And then there were consequential changes to Chapter 1 for this, for the reporting. And that had no membership comments, and this was the last rule change. Are there any comments from the floor?
I don't see any raised hands.
Okay, so we're doing great on time, and I just noticed that Lena had some chats. Her microphone, I think, was not working earlier. So if we could go back to the rule change about the sublots and address her chat, if that's okay, Andreas.
That is fine. Lena, can you unmute now?
Okay, so same problem.
We have the same problem.
So what she says is in 2.2.2, where up to 5 sublots are, where up to 5 sublot certificates are allowed to be issued, and 5% of those species and seed lots for which up to 20 sublots are allowed. So her comment is, suppose that you have a seed lot up to 940 kilograms with 3 sublots. Could they be of 20 kilos, and 900 kilos? On the basis of the text, it seems no. Is there anyone from bulking and sampling committee that can comment
Bulking
on
and
that?
sampling or statistics?
Or statistics? Let me scroll to the 2.2. Okay.
Anyone from BSC wanted to comment on that?
Je sais pas. Faut que je réfléchisse.
Okay, so her proposal is to add the words allowed to be and seed lots.
I've got 2 up hands here. Ruth?
Yeah, so
yeah.
Well, I'm not a member of this committee, but for me it's quite straightforward that it says it may not be less than 20%. So out of 940 kilos, 20 kilos is not above 20%, right? But yeah, that's just some quick math. Maybe Steve also has an opinion on this topic as well.
Steve?
So,
Hi, thanks, Andres. And Rude, a bit like you, I was doing the math, and even if the company wanted to do it under the 5 sublot maximum, 20 kilos still wouldn't be allowed, because Lena's raised an interesting question on the maths, which started me thinking that the company who wants to make sublots probably needs to be in good communication with the laboratory and decide whether they're going for the 5 sublot maximum or the 20 sublot maximum, because then there are different requirements for both. And like you said, Rude, on one of them it's a 5% maximum, and on another one a 20% maximum, but none of those allow you to do 20 kilograms, Lena. So maybe there is a situation where Vulcan and sampling need to think about the maths of the two consequences of having either wanting to issue 5 sublot certificates or 20 sublot certificates, and maybe they need to work through some examples. But I agree with yeah, Lena's making my maths difficult now. She's also coming up with some other options, so I'd have to work through those as well. But I think it's a good point that you've made, Lena, is that maybe Vulcan and sampling could come up with some examples to help the labs. But for sure, I think there needs to be very good communications between the lab and the company issuing the number of sublots. Sublots were always difficult in the past to make sure that the lab did the right thing and didn't issue too many. So there always had to be very strong communication between the company, the sampler, and the lab. So I think they just need, with this extra flexibility that is needed by the industry, they just need to increase that a bit more. But I think the examples or the questions Lena's raising are a good one for Vulcan and sampling to be able to answer for people. I don't think it makes any difference to the proposals, but how the lab works it and what's allowed and what's not allowed is useful to have given examples for. Thanks.
Lee Ren. Lee? Lai? Okay, there you are. You're muted. Um, no.
So Andreas, so are you just again asking the same question around this, or are you looking at the hands raised? I think so. Here there is a
Hands
hand raised,
raised.
Leah Rain.
Yeah, he's trying to unmute Keshavulu.
Yeah. Oh, I
That
think
doesn't seem to work.
okay. So he's oh, okay.
Okay.
He's raised. Okay, thanks. So that means I think so. So good. I mean, suggestion from the Steve. I think so. Are we coming up with the giving the examples there, or how it would be the final? So while discussing this at the OGMs, are we going back or preparing some examples and then put in this version, or how it would be? Steve?
Yeah, could that be done by the Biking and Sampling Committee?
Yeah, I think.
Hey, Keshavulu. Yeah, I mean, I think the examples could be in explanatory documents, but they don't need to go in the rules proposal. But the Vulcan and sampling could come up with some explanatory documents to help. But again, like somebody said earlier, I wouldn't have too much detail in the rules, too many examples. But that might well be useful somewhere else, or in the PowerPoints, or maybe in some of the other PowerPoints, either from Jody or from the Vulcan and Sampling Committee. Sorry, Kashivulo, I think if you had a comment, you've gone mute as well.
Frozen in the moment.
Here is Corinne from Looking at Sampling Committee. We will try to prepare something. Well, I heard what Steve and Keshavolu said, and we will try to prepare something.
Good. Okay. Any further questions or comments? I don't see that. Thank you, Jody. Before I hand over to Keshavulu, who probably is, hopefully is unfrozen now, let me inform you that you can find the validation reports in STI, which just came out as well. So you can go online on the ISTA website and look at the new version of STI. That is what I would like to remind you of. You see the invitation to the Congress, and I hand over to Keshavulu to say a few words at the end.
Thanks, Andreas. So thank you very much. So hello, everyone. So as we conclude that today's rules change session, so I want to express my sincere gratitude to each one of you for your valuable suggestions, contributions, and then attention to advancing the field of seed sampling and testing. Of course, the special thanks to the technical committees, members and chairs of the committee, and then rules committee, and also the endorsement of the ISTA executive committee as well. So these proposals outlined, so in these changes will be submitted to this document will be submitted to the ISTA ordinary general meeting 2025 for voting by the nominated ISTA designated members. So, of course, this document already has been uploaded to the ISTA website, and maybe still may have some need some clarifications and changes and then amendments to the ISTA these rules, or the membership may require the further clarifications, which will be discussed and voted at the OGM 2025. It is scheduled to take place on May 9th, 2025 in Christchurch, New Zealand. Of course, this introduction to the ISTA rules proposals are the changes that are expected to become effective on January 1, 2026. And then your involvement in this session is it's helpful, and then it helps in strengthening the ISTA standards, and also ensuring that our work continues to uphold the highest level of course, the level of scientific integrity and then quality of our work, what we do. And then we hope that today's discussion have been really helpful, and then have helped to deepen our understanding of the ISTA rules and their role in the promoting consistency and reliability in the seed testing world. A special thanks Jody, goes to Jody, and for her exceptional the efforts in preparing these rules. Of course, it is not so easy. It needed the lots of work and lots of time, and then it is truly appreciated. So once again, thank you very much for your preparation and then presentation for the almost almost 1 hour 15 minutes. So thanks, Jody. I once again thank you very much for all the participants and for your time and participation. So let's continue and work together to uphold and then advance the standards that will ensure the future for global food security. So we look forward to seeing you at the future meetings and sessions, especially those who are traveling to the ISTA Congress. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much from our side as well. We have the final question was from Lee Ren. He just mentioned it that the original seedlot size does not exceed 10,000 or 1,000 kilogram. I think that is what we give in the explanation as well. That depends on the number of sublots you would like to have out of it. Is that true, Jody? Yes.
Yes, so that's my understanding, is that if you have a seed lot that you want to have up to 20 sublots for, you would only be able to have a maximum seed lot size of 1,000 kilos. If you want the 5 sublot or no sublot option, you can go up to 10,000 kilograms. Is that, I think I'm understanding that correctly from the Bulking and Sampling Committee. Please chime in if that's not correct.
That's also what I understood, and but we will get some explanation. And Lee Ren is happy with that answer. I have to go into the chat in parallel to see what he's writing. So thank you very much, I think, for that. I would like to invite you to the next webinars we have. There are 2 webinars on Monday, 14. Next week, a morning and an afternoon session, both on the same. An important thing, it's on the revision of the ISTA accreditation standard and the ISTA accreditation directive. You can find that information on the website. And the day after, we mentioned that during the meeting, is a webinar on the changes of the 8th edition of the ISTA stabilized plant names. Inviting you also to these webinars, and you will find this meeting here in a few days on the ISTA YouTube channel for your reference. Thank you very much. Kajabulu, you want to say a final word? You're muted.
Thank you very much, Andreas, and for the moderating this session. So it's a wonderful, and thanks from even the secretariat. I probably for arranging this wonderful meeting. So we had a great meeting today, for sure. Again, so there will be maybe some more. As I said before, there will be some questions and clarifications at the OGM. Thank you, one and all. Thanks a lot, and then hope many of you, we will see you in Christchurch, New Zealand, in ISTA Congress.
Yeah, have a good trip, a good and safe trip if you're coming.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks, bye-bye.